Hello guys, welcome back to another stream. Today we'll be building another project, and today we'll be building a monthly expenditure app. So here we can basically see all of our expenditures right in front of us, and you can basically add your income or even your expenditures, right? So here what I can do is just, let's say, add 3,000 to my already made list, and I can just, let's say, do whatever and just add. So it'll basically add here, gives us a small notification here, and it will add to our monthly income. So here, as you can see, it was 3,645. Now it is 2,000. Now it is 5,645. Right now you can see monthly expenditures. Now if I just do add an expense of, let's say, 1,000, and just do whatever, so like any category, right? And as you can see, this will work. So yeah, let's build this bad boy, okay? So here I made a new folder saying expense tracker. Here what I'm going to do is just make an HTML file. We'll be basically using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Again, it's a web development project, right? And here I'm also going to use style.css and also script.js. So with this, that is our three main files. I'm just going to quickly make our HTML boilerplate. So first what I'm going to do is, here what I'm going to do is give the title something like personal expense tracker. You can give whatever you want, obviously. And here what I'm going to do is, next I'm going to use a CDN link to font awesome icons. I'm also going to link my style.css, but first I'm just gonna put this. So this is basically a link that will basically allow us to use font awesome icons. As you can see, it will basically take all of the CSS from the font awesome icons, so they'll basically use that. And here what I'm going to do is just put a style.css and also link it with our CSS file. So with this, what I'm going to do here is go to body. So all of our things on header head file is done. I'm also going to link my JavaScript file. So I'm just going to do script.js, and there we go. So next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit go live. So it will basically put it right there, and boom. This is our main files that we need, right? So with this, we can actually start making our HTML structure. So for the header, what I'm going to do is give a header class with actually this time I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to put header. So this will basically be in a div. Inside this, what I'm going to do is give a h1 saying good morning. You can put whatever you want. I'm just going to put code in because, you know, it suits our channel. And I'm also going to do header controls. And inside this, I'm just going to make a drop down. So this will basically be a drop down, which will not be an actual drop down because it will not work, obviously, but it will look like a drop down. So I'm just going to do that. It will only be drop down CSS wise, okay? Now you could make drop down using the select options, right? That is, you can do that. But for this, we don't have any use case of this, so I'm just gonna put, I'm gonna make a dummy drop down. To do that, this will be the content inside the drop down, and for the downward arrow, I'm just gonna use icons. So here is where our link to font awesome icons actually really shines. So I'm just gonna put a class that will say fs. We need a chevron down, so I'm just gonna do chevron down. For the people who don't know, chevron down is basically this icon that you see in, you know, every drop down. You can also do right if you want. You can change it. Oops, I misspelled it. As you can see, you can do left. Oops, and also top. Sorry, up. There you go. And yeah, this is how we play around the font awesome icons. So after this, what I'm going to do is also make a date picker, which will again be a dummy date picker. I'm just going to do date picker. Inside this, I'm just going to use a calendar icon, which makes the most sense, right? I'm going to do calendar just like this. There we go. And inside this, I'm going to put a content of, I don't know. I'm just going to put a random, so I'm just going to do 16 January 2025, just like this, oops, and also put an export button. Again, all of these icons are dummy icons, you have to keep that in mind, guys. So if you're thinking, why doesn't it work as a dummy icon, okay, I'm just going to do FAS, FA, and do download. So this will basically be a download icon here, and I'm also going to do export. And with this, our header is done. So let's go ahead and style our header. I'm going to go to my style.css file and just basically do margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing, set that to border box. Just like that, which is our, the first thing they need to do to eliminate all of the default margin and padding. Now next is body. So we have to pick a font. I'm just gonna use this one because it looks nice. And yeah, next thing I'm gonna do is do background, set that to F8, FA, and FC, which is a bit of a darkish gray, a little bit. Not a perfect white. And also gonna do colors, set that to 1E, 29, and 3B, which is a bit of not perfect black but has a tintish white, right? Next is line height. I'm just gonna do line height, set that to 1.5 in case if it's too smushed together. Now next, what I'm gonna do is style the actual header. So we have a header, obviously you have a header div. You have to style it, right? So for this, what I'm going to do is set the background to white. Now you might be saying, now you see what's happening here. When we do header background white, there is a separation line here. As I said, it is not perfect white, right? Now, by doing that, it basically, separates the container. So that's what we're trying to do. Next, what I'm going to do is set the padding to 1.5 rem and also 2 rem. Just like that, give us a slight padding there. Also do border bottom set to 1 pixel solid, do E2, E8, F0. So this will basically be a grayish border, as you can see here. And next thing what I'm going to do is do display flex, make it a flex box, and also, since it's a header, right? Just by content, I'm just going to do space between, just like that, and do align items set to center. And there we go. Now for the header H1, right? Now we still have to style the header controls div, but before that, we'll style the H1. So for H1, what I'm going to do is we'll do pretty simple things. So there will be font size set to 1.5 rems. Lower that bit a little bit because H1, like always, seems to be pretty big. And also do font weight set to 600 because it's too dark. And also set the color to our signature black color we have here. Now what you can do here is also make CSS variables, because these are the colors that we'll basically use in this project frequently, right? Now to give the colors a little bit meaning, you can also make CSS variables. So here what I'm going to do is do header controls, and also do display set to flex, and also do gap 1 rem, and also do align items set to center. And there we go. With this, there should be a relative gap here. I can actually do something like this. And now for the drop down, right? What I'm going to do here is just basically do call the drop down class first and do position it relative to background, because we have to position this the icon to the container, relative to container, right? And do that, and also do border set to 1 pixel, solid D1, D5, and DB, just like that. Again, a border. And here I also have to set the border radius. We're gonna set padding in a bit, don't worry. And do 8 pixels, set now padding to 0.5 rem and 1 rem. There we go. And also do font size, decrease the font size by this much. There we go. Now I'm also going to set the cursor to pointer, which makes sense, and that is our dummy dropdown. Now next for the date picker, right? For date picker, I'm just going to set the background to white. I'm going to scroll down actually. Also do border set to 1 pixel, solid, the same color as others. So I'm just going to do D1, D1, D5, and DB, there we go. And do border radius set to 8 pixels. Also do padding set to 0.5 rem and 1 rem. Also do font size set to the same thing. And now do display flex and align items set to center, because as you can see, it is not aligned, right? That happens pretty often. So do center here, that should fix it. And also set a gap because it's squashed together. And do 0.5 rem as grab, that is basically 8 pixels. And that is for our second thing, that is date picker. Or I should say dummy date picker, because it doesn't work. Do export button, because we're still focusing on JavaScript. HTML and CSS more than JavaScript. It will, I'm not saying it will not have JavaScript, it will, but it will have very basic JavaScript, right? Now next for background, I'm just gonna set a orange color, so I'm just gonna do EA580C. There we go. You basically saw it in the intro, right? The color, set that to white because black doesn't suit orange. And also do border set to none, and border radius set to 8 pixels. And also set the padding to 0.5 rem and 1 rem. And do font size set to this right here. Do display flex and align items set that to center. Now next thing what I need to do is also set the gap to 0.5 rem as usual. And there we go. So that is our header done, guys. That is all we have to do for the header. So next thing what I need to do is basically now make the main content, right? For main content, what I'm going to do is make a div called main content first, and inside this I'm just gonna make a dashboard grid. So as you saw in the beginning, we use the grid for dashboard, so we'll basically be doing that. Now we have to make the individual cards, right? I'm gonna give a card, and here I'm gonna make in a tree, which will basically have a card title, and let's say the first one is monthly income, just like that. And what I'm going to do is also make a button with a class of card menu, and inside this I'm going to make an icon tag with a class of FES, FA ellipsis, just like that. It will basically give us a 3-dot menu. And here what I'm going to do is here give now this will be our amount, right? So I'm just going to do amount and give it a random amount initially. So I'm just going to do, let's say 2645, and let's say 00. So this will be the initial state. So this will have another class to its class list, that is income amount, because it's not only amount, it is income amount. Right? We also have an expense coming right up after this card. And here, so that will basically what it is, that will separate this card from another, because we have to still take it from JavaScript, right? So here what I'm going to do is do class change, and just gonna do FAS, FA, arrow up. So this will basically be the like how much percent it got it increase. You know, when in personal expense tracker, it basically says 12% from the last month, or you spend like 20% more than the last month. It'll basically be just make that, right? And here I'm just gonna do 12% versus last month. So I'm just gonna put that there. And there we go. So we need to make a pretty another card for this. I'm just gonna copy paste this. Oops. So I was not supposed to do that. What I can do here is basically set this to a card header. Right, this will basically be header, and wrap this inside another card div. So I'm just gonna do that and format the document, and there we go. So what I can do now is basically copy paste this again. So this will be monthly expenses. So I'm just gonna do expenses and just put that there, the same thing. And also now I also can give it different amounts, saying 1895 for the change. I'm just gonna have the same thing, right? So now for the actual thing, right? What I'm gonna do here is basically give the thing. So here I'm just gonna style these two things first. So let's quickly do it. Now for the styling the main content here, I'm just gonna do main content and just do padding, set that to 2rem, and also do max width, set that to 1400 pixels. Also do margin set to 0 auto. There we go. And here what I'm gonna do is style the card container first, which is the thing, right? But before that, which is the card, right, which is these two things, but we have to style the actual container first. So I'm just gonna do dashboard grid and do display, set that to grid, do grid template column, set to 1 fraction 350 pixels. There we go, just like that. And here I'm just going to do gap 2rem and also do margin bottom set to 2rem. Just like that. Now here what I'm going to do is do background set to white. Also do border radius set to 12 pixels. Padding set to 1.5 rem. And also do box shadow set to 0, 1 pixel, 3 pixels, and set the RGBA values to a grayish color. So I'm just going to do that. And there we go. Now for the actual card header, so styling the individual things in the container, right? What I'm going to do here is just do card header, set that to display flex, and do justify content. I'm just going to do space between, right? And also do align items, set to center. And here what I'm going to do is basically set, give me a second guys, set the margin bottom, so I still need to do that. And yeah, now one thing I forgot to tell is a grid basically, you know, it basically shrinks as long as how, so it will be 350 pixels on full screen here, so like that. And when you shrink the thing, it shrinks with you, right? So here what I'm going to do is basically do card and do card title. So we'll basically be styling this first. So here what I'm going to do is do font size, font size set to 1 rem, and also do font weight a little bit lighter, and also do color, set that to 374 and 151, just like that. For the card menu, what I'm going to do is do background set to none, and here I'm just going to set the border to none, just like that, and give it a color of 9CA 3AF. So it will basically be a darker grayish color. And also do cursor set to pointer, and also do padding, set that to 0.25 rem, just like that. Now for the amount, right? What I'm going to do here is do amount, do font size set to 2 rem, and also do font weight set to 700, also do margin bottom set to 0.5 rem, just like that. Obviously expenses should be like, the money should be bigger, right? And the last is, I'm going to separate the income amount and the expense amount. I'm just going to do income amount. I'm just going to do color, set that to our signature black, right? And there we go. What I can do here, I think I'm just going to leave it as B, because I don't think I need to change that, right? Yeah. Now for the change, which is this, right? What I'm going to do here, now I'm just going to set it to green because it's going up. I'm just going to do font size set to 0.875 rem as the others, and also do color and set that to a light green, just like that, a little bit darker, just like that, a little lighter, there we go. And here I'm just going to do align item set to center, and do gap, set that to 0.25 rem, just like that. I forgot to do display flex here, and there we go. Now let's move on to HTML and make the other structures now. So here what I'm going to do is, after this card finishes, right? So I'm just going to make another card here. So I'm just going to do the same thing like that. And here I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. So here this will basically be a different card. I'm just going to change that to my card. And here it will still have the header, it will still have title. It'll basically be my card. It will basically be a dummy credit card information thingy that we'll basically make. It will basically say our card number and whatever thing that it needs, like a spending limit or spending used, other stuff, and also make a progress bar. Here for that, what I'm going to do is, for button, right, I'm basically going to use inline CSS to style this, only for the color obviously. Here what I'm going to do is basically make a style here. Style, set the RGBA, set that to a whitish color. So that's basically be white. You can also put something like, forgot to set that, you can just set that white also, it should not matter. And next is the ellipse, it will still have the same thing here, and there we go. So for the thing, right, so next thing that I can do is basically style the, here I don't need any of these, so I'm just gonna cut all of these, just like that. And now I'm gonna have these, all of the things that we need for a wallet, because this will basically be our credit card information, right? Here what I'm going to do is basically do font size, oops, and make a div. We will not have a style, so I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to use style here. I'm going to do font size 0.75 rem. Also give opacity set to 0.8. Also give margin bottom set to 1 rem. So that will basically be all of our things. And here I'm just going to say linked to your primary wallet. Just like that. The next thing what I need to do is basically make our all of the information. So I'm just going to do card chip. So it'll basically be our card chip. And here I'm just going to do card number. I have a random card number that I basically give. I'm just going to do that. Do card holder. I'm also going to do nick, or I can just do code in. I'm just going to do code in. There we go. The next thing what I can do is do card logo, and here I can just basically do card logo circle. Basically be the circle, right? I'm just gonna do logo red, and here I'm just gonna change that to orange, just like that. It'll basically be the card logo. Just you know how the MasterCard has this logo? We're basically trying to simulate that by doing this, and we'll let the CSS handle all of that. So I'm just gonna not overcomplicate things in HTML here. We'll basically be doing everything in CSS. And next is spending section. So we'll basically say all of our spending section. Also have a progress bar. So I'm just gonna do spending section, and here I'm just gonna do div. And do style here. I'm just going to set the margin bottom, set that to 0.5 rem. Also do font size, set that to 0.75 rem. Also set the opacity to 0.9. And do spending limit. There we go. Now for the limit, what I'm going to do is do spending limit. Set this to a random number, so I'm just gonna do 4645.00. I'm just gonna copy paste that, change that to used, and I'm just gonna do used from, and set that to, let's say, random number, saying 12645. Just change the first number. Now next what I'm going to do is make a progress bar. So I'm just going to do progress bar and do progress fill. There you go. So this is all of the things that we need in our dashboard grid. So here after the thing, which is this, I'm basically going to do here to, basically give a small section that is finished right here. So after this, let's style this card, right? I'm going to go to CSS again, and here I'm just going to basically do my card, and just do background, set that to linear gradient, do 135 degrees, and just basically use a green. So I'm just going to do 059669. It'll basically be a darkish green color, and we have to merge it with the lightish green color. So I'm just going to do 10, V9, and 81. There we go. So you can see the linear gradient here, and set that to 100%, set that to 0%, just like that, and there we go. Now next thing I need to do is set the color to white, and also give position of relative, and set the overflow to hidden, and there we go. Now for the card chip, I'm just gonna do width, I'm just gonna do 32 pixels and do height 24 pixels. Set the background to a yellowish color, so I'm just gonna do FBB F24. Border radius, I'm gonna set that to 4 pixels and do margin bottom, set that to 2 rem, just like that, and do position set to relative, just like that, right? Now next thing that we need to do, I can probably do this here. And I have to set the actual lines for the card chip. So here what I'm going to do is just make a simple thing. So I'm just going to do card chip after, so it'll be after that. I'm just going to use the content, just like that, and do position it relative, and also do top 4 pixels, left 4 pixels, right 4 pixels, and also do bottom 4 pixels, same thing. And here I'm just gonna do background, give the line a background, so I'm just gonna do background, set that to 92400E. There we go. And give a border radius of 2 pixels. And there we go. Why does it not work? Okay, so I'm just gonna, oh, I set the thing to absolute. There we go. So what I'm gonna do now is set the card numbers. I'm just gonna do style the card numbers. So I'm just gonna do card number, set the font size to 1.25 rem. Also do letter spacing to 0.1 rem. And also do margin bottom set to 1 rem. And here for the font family, I'm just gonna use Courier Neo. So this will basically be a monospace. It'll basically be a freight card like text font here. Now for the card logos, I'm just gonna do card logo, position it absolute, and do bottom 1 rem and right 1 rem. Also do display flex, and gap is -8 pixels. So I'm just gonna do that. Now for the actual circles, right? Here I'm just gonna do, I'm gonna make 2 circles, which are again positioned absolute to each other, so it'll basically overlap. And do width, set that to 24 pixels, and give a height of 24 pixels, and also give border radius of 50%. So this will basically make a circle, right? Now for the logo red, I'm just gonna do a background, set that to red. So I'm just gonna do EF quadruple 4. That will basically give us a red circle, just like that, as you can see. I'm just gonna copy paste that. Now next, change that to orange and give it a yellowish text. So I'm just gonna do that and do F9, F5, 9, and do EOB. There we go. There we go. You can see it works. Also, now it's not perfectly overlapped. So for that, I'm just gonna do margin left, set that to -8 pixels, and there we go. Now for the spending section, right, what I'm gonna do here is do spending section and do margin top set to 2 rem, just like that. Do spending limit, set that to 1. Sorry, just forgot to give it a property, so I'm just gonna do 1.25 rem. Also do font weight, set that to 700, and do color, set that to our signature black color, just like that. Now next for the spending used, right? I'm just gonna do spending used. I'm just gonna do font size, set that to 0.875 rem, and do colors, set that to our grayish color. So I'm just gonna do 6B7 and 280, and just basically do margin bottoms, set that to 0.5 rem, just like that. This is for spending thing here, and yeah. Now for the progress bar, right? I'm just gonna do progress bars, set the height to around 6 pixels here, set the background, set to F3, F4, and F6. There we go. And also do border radius set to 3 pixels and set the overflow to hidden. Just like that. Oops. Do overflow to hidden. Now next thing what I can do is give it a progress fill. So here we have a progress bar that's the progress fill inside the progress bar. So I can give it a height of 100% and give a background of EA580C, right? And give it a width of 37% and do border radius, set that to 3 pixels. And there we go. That is our my card section, right? Everything looks fine. And yeah. So next is the chart section. Now we'll basically make a bar graph on our own. So this will basically be a full-on bar graph that we'll basically build here. So yeah. Let's get to it. We'll go to HTML first. Do that, come down. So first first what I'm going to do here is basically make a section. So we'll have multiple charts, multiple container for the chart. So you have to wrap it inside another section. So what I'm going to do is make a chart section here. Inside make a card. Inside another that, make a card header. And inside that, I'm just going to make a card title. So I'm just going to do that and do overview. Give it an overview just like that. And now here what I'm going to do here is, so here I can give a h3 instead of div. I accidentally gave it a div here. And also give a div here. So this will basically be the container for the buttons and the drop down. So what I'm going to do here is inside this I'm going to make a div. I'll basically say drop down and give it a yearly and give it content here. And here I'm just going to do class. I'm going to give a chevron down just like that. It will come pre-styled here because we already have styled that. So I'm just going to do here, I'm just going to make a button saying filter button and give a class of FAS FA filter and give it a filter just like that. Now for the styling, right? To style all of these, which is the main div here, I'm basically going to put inline CSS here saying display flex because there's only two things. There we go. That's for the container because I don't want to give it a class and come here and style it. Instead, if there are just a couple of properties, I can just use inline CSS, right? That is for the card, right? That is for the card header. Now after this, we have to make the actual container. So this will basically be a really big HTML structure because we have to put a lot of things. So inside the container, I'm just gonna put a chart bar first. I'm just gonna do chart bar. I'll give it a inline CSS of height. So set the height to 120 pixels here. We have make another bar, so that is, let's say, 80 pixels. And the active, so it will basically be a active bar at the third. This will basically have a 200 pixels height. And after that, what I'm going to do inside this, I'm basically going to put a lot of other stuff. So here, I'm basically going to do div, oops, what, okay, so I'm just going to do div and call that, and inside this, I'm basically just going to do that, and inside this, I'm just going to use, so I'm going to use inline CSS for all of these, so there's that. So here, I'm just going to put, I'm gonna close the class here and put style to, let's say, font weight set to 600 and do April 2025, just like that. And I'm gonna give that, actually I can just do that, close that to cut that, oops, cut that to color and give it a greenish color. So I'm just going to do 10, B9, and H1 here. And I'm going to set the income. So this will basically be the data for all of our things, right? If you're getting confused, this will basically be the data for the active bar graph. So that will basically not, this will basically be dummy data, obviously. Now, here I'm just going to change that to EA, so it will be a reddish color. The reason being is expenses. So I'm just going to do expenses, do like 7, 6, 8 or something, right? And yeah, there we go. So we have to style this, so I'm just going to do style, position set to absolute, top set to negative 30 pixels, left set to 50%. I'm just going to use a transform, translate to negative 50% here, right? And next thing that we have to do is give it a background. So I'm just going to do a background white, padding set to 0.25 rem, and also 0.5 rem. Also do border radius set to 4 pixels, and also do box shadow set to 0, 2 pixels, and 8 pixels. And also do, I forgot to give the colors, so I'm just going to do 0, 0, 0, 0.1. And at last, going to give a font size of 0.75 rem. Okay. I'm gonna give a font size of 0.575 rem, and there we go. So this is what I mean by the active container. So when you hover over this, technically it should show all of these, right? So this will basically be a dummy data, as I said again. So after this div, right, I need to give another make for chart bar income. So I'm just going to do that, do chart bar, and this will be for income. I'm going to give a style for height. So it will be 2 heights for signifying how much the ratio of the graph is in comparison of income and expenses. So this is basically that, and set that to expense, and here set that to 80. Oops, there we go. So next, after all of these, right, after all of these, which is the active, we have to make the actual bars for others. So here I'm just gonna copy this and basically paste this. paste this a few times, so we probably need about 8, so I'm just going to do 8 here. And to make it uniform, I'm just going to give it different values. So let's say that's 90, that's 110, that's 130. Also give, let's say that's 100, that's 80, and also give it, let's say 140, and let's say that's 90. There we go. Give it 90, 95 because 90 is right there, and that is all of our other divs, right? Now for after the chart container, so I'm just going to give these make chart labels. So I'm just going to do chart labels, and here I'm going to make span, and I'm going to make for all of our months. So this will be February, this will be March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and do November and December. I'm gonna cut that, and yeah, that is all of our chart labels. So after making the card, right, after making all of this, let's style the thing, right? So here what I'm going to do is go to this is basically all of our things for the thing, for the container, for the chart container. So what I'm going to do here is actually style it now. So here what I'm going to do is make chart section and do grid column, grid column set to 1 by 1 minus 1, and display this as grid. Obviously do grid template columns, do 2 fraction and 1 fraction here, and set the gap to 2 rem. There we go, just like that. Do chart container, do height, set that to 300 pixels, position set to relative, and do display flex, align items at the end, do justify content, space between, just like that. Set the padding to 1 rem, and do background set to F8 FAFC, and do border radius, set that to 8 pixels, do margin top set to 1 rem, and there we go. So next thing I need to do is make a chart bar. So I'm just going to do chart bar, do width 40 pixels, also do background, set that to E5, E7, EB. As you can see, all of our bars just like that. Set the border radius, set that to 4 pixels, and 0 and 0. There we go. Do position it relative, and do display flex, and do flex direction set to column, and now set the justify content to end, just like that. So for the active bar, what I'm going to do is do chart bar active, and do background, set that to a linear gradient to top, and do EA the reddish color. And next I can do is FB9 on this right here, or I can just do FB9 and do 3C, so it will basically be a orangish color here. So it's not okay. Oh, there we go. Next thing is in bottom here. So if I just come down here, and that is chart bar active. Oh, okay. What? It's supposed to be top here, and there we go. So here, what I'm going to do is for the active, I'm going to set that to there, and here I'm just going to do chart bar income, set the background to greenish color, set the margin bottoms to 4 pixels, and the border radius set to 4 pixels as well. Now for the expenses, right, I can just probably copy and paste this here. Set this to expense and do EA, the reddish color here, and I don't need a margin bottom, so I'm just gonna do that, and border radius is 4 pixels, and there we go. So next thing that we can do is for the labels. So I'm just gonna do chart labels. Forgot to add the class selector here. Now I'm just gonna do display flex justify content, set that to space between, and do margin top set to 1 rem, and do font size set to 0.75 rem. Also do color, set that to there. So as you can see, it is labeled just like that. So next thing that we need to make is make other structures for the HTML, right? So after this card, which is the single card here, I'm gonna push it down. We're gonna style the filter button later. So this is for the first thing, right? So now next thing that we need to make is for another card. So here we'll basically do card again, do card header again. Also do history, do card title, and do all expenses, just like that. This will be another card, just like that. And set the button to card menu. Basically have the same thing, so I can probably just copy paste it from here, just like that. And down here, just basically do that. So the next thing that we need to make is for these expenditures. So this will basically track all of our expenses here. So you can probably guess it from the title here. So now what I'm going to do is make a div with, I'm going to add inline CSS here. So because it only has like 3 properties, I'm just going to do font size set to 0.75 rem, do color set to the gray color. So I'm just going to do 6v7 and 280, just like that. And do margin bottom set to 1 rem, and do spending break down by category. This will basically be our thing, the text. Now for that, I'm gonna actually make it a little bigger, so the thing will be squashed out because we haven't made it responsive yet. After we make it responsive, it should not be a problem here. So for all of that, I'm gonna come down here and just say expenses breakdown, right? And do div total spaces, total expenses, and here I can just do let's give a random number. So just 24,645, just like that. Just again dummy data here, and do period tabs, and here I'm just gonna do span period tab. I'm just gonna do a daily here, and do weekly here, and just do period tab active. This will basically be the active thing. And here I'm just gonna do that. Now for the period amounts, right? So for the period amounts, I'm just gonna do period amounts, make spans, 3 spans actually. This will again be daily, weekly, and monthly. Just like that. Now for the period values, so what I can do is just copy that and change that to values. Give it a random thing. So I have random number of money here, so I'm just gonna paste that just like that instead of having to type it, which is kind of pain in my opinion. And yeah. Now for the next this is for the values, right? For the weekly and other stuff. The next thing I can do is do color bar. So it'll basically be a color bar. I'm gonna leave that empty because we will use it later. And now I can just do expense categories. Now here I can just do expense categories. Make a list here, so this list will have a class of expense category, just like that. And inside this, I'm gonna make a div called category info. They'll basically show all of the information for the category. And I'm gonna make a category dot, and also give a dot food here. Just like that. Now I'm gonna make a span for food and health. Just like that. There we go. So next thing what I can do is after this, I can probably give it a value saying span 863, just like that. Now this is one category. Now one thing I forgot to do is use UL tags, right? I'm gonna use UL, give it a class of expense categories, and I can put this li tag inside this UL tag, format the document, and there we go. Now for the UL, I'm gonna give that, and I can basically copy paste this a couple of times, right? So here I can just do 4 times, I think. Change the values. Now this is the same thing, right? And now I have the structure already pre-made because I've already made it. So I'll basically copy and paste that. So if you're thinking I'm cheating, I'm not, okay? Because everything is the same. The only difference here, I'm going to format the document really quick. The only difference here is that it has separate class for this, which is, let's say it is for dot food, it will be dot for entertainment, same thing. And next is the actual content, so it's food and health, and the entertainments for the category, and the actual values. Let's say this 863, there'll be 248, and that's it. The only difference is that, like those. Every other things are completely the same. So we are talking about the normal class. Everything is category info, as you can see here. So yeah. So if you want the link to the source code, it'll be down in the description box below. If just saying, for the people who want the actual source code for this. And yeah. So let's go ahead and style this, okay? So here what I'm going to do is do expenses breakdown, and here I'm just going to do margin top 1 rem, just like that. I'm going to come down here, do total expenses, set that to font size 1.75 rem, font weight 700, do margin bottom 1 rem, just like that. Do period tabs, do display flex, and do gap 2 rem, and do margin bottom 1 rem, and also do font size 0.875 rem. So like that, I'm just gonna close there, and there we go. So it'll basically be just like that. So here we can do period tab, do color, set that to our gray color, which is this right here, and do cursor set to pointer. Get the period. Now for the period tab active, so we set the one value to active here. I'm pretty sure. And there we go. So this is the monthly. So it will have a different styling. Just gonna do key color, change that to that. Font weight, it will be a little bit darker, just like that. Now for the values, right? Or the amounts first, actually. So here, what I'm gonna do is, give me a second. Did I just copy paste it twice by not knowing it? Period amounts. Here we go. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just gonna do amounts here and do display flex, justify content space between, also do margin bottom set to 1 rem, and do font size 0.875 rem, also do color, set that to there we go. And there we go. So next thing that we need to do is set the values, right? So for the values, I'll have the same thing. So I'm just gonna copy that, paste that there, set that to values. We'll have the same thing, font size. Moving to that, I'm just gonna do font size, and also do. I'm just going to change the font size and change the font weight to 600 and do margin bottom, set that to 1 rem. There we go. So next is the color bars. So I'm just going to do color bar, set the height to 6 pixels, set the border radius to 3 pixels, also do background and set it to linear gradient. I'm going to do to right, and here I'm just going to set the first color to that. I have a couple different colors. Do F for the yellowish, just like that, and next I'm just going to do EA V3 and 808. Next is a kind of a green color, so I'm just going to use our same green color just like that. And there we go. And next is margin bottom. I'm going to just set that to 1 rem, and there we go. Now for the list, all of these lists, right? What I can do for these, I just set the expense categories and do list style type. Here I can set that to none. Do expense, I can do expense category, set to display flex, justify content, do space between, and do align items, set that to center, also do padding, set to 0.5 rem and 0, set the border bottom to 1 pixel, solid F3, F4, and F6. There we go. looks pretty nice. Now next thing I can do is do category info and do display flex and do align item set to center and do gap 0.5 rem. And there we go. So next thing we have to do is basically just basically just put the, what am I doing? Basically put the dots. So here what we did, if I go here and just search category dot, right? We basically made dots for every single one of the things. So I have to make the dots here. So here what I'm going to do is first style the category dot. So I'm just going to do that. Put a width of 8 pixels, a height of 8 pixels, and a border radius of 50%. That will make it a perfect circle. Now the reason you cannot see the dots is because we haven't gave them a color. So if I just comment that out, you can see it going a little bit right because dots are actually there, but it's not colored. So what I'm going to do here is I have made an extra class, which in the class list as like dot shopping, dot investment, dot entertainment, whatever. I'm going to use that to fill the colors. So I'm just going to do dot food. Let's say background. I'm just going to do this one right here. As you can see, the dot appears just like that. And I can just copy paste that a bunch of times, just like that. Only change this, so entertainment. So for that, I'm just gonna use the this F590 EOB. So this will be for entertainment. Next is for investment, so I'm just gonna do that. So I'll just change that to a green color, like that. And for shopping, I'm just gonna change that to the yellow color we have, the most lighter yellow color, or it is darker, I can't tell. Oh well. So that is all for the all expenses section. The next thing what we have to do is basically make the transaction section. So if I go here, now I'm just gonna push it down there a little bit. And after this section, which is this right here, what I need to do is I need to check where the thing is here first. So this is where the thing starts. Give me a second here. We need to get after the chart section, which is this overall. So if I go over here and search chart section and scroll down again, so that will be the place we need to see here. And after that section, we'll basically make our rest of the things. So what I need to do here is basically just give me a second here. If I go to here, that's the chart section, right? So yeah, after that, I need to make the card transaction section. So if I just make another div saying card, also make another div saying transaction section. So if I do transactions sections, and now what I can do is basically just make card header here. Inside the card header, I'm just gonna make a card title and just do recent transactions. After that, I can make the filter button. So here what I'm going to do is make filters. Inside this, I'm going to make a button which will have a class of filter button. Inside this, I'm going to make an icon tag saying this will be for sorts. If I scroll down here, this will be how it will look like. Alright. And after this, what I'm going to do is also make a short, just like that. So after this, what I'm going to do is just make another button, which will basically be another filter button. We have two buttons for that. and this will again be for the filter icon. So I'm just going to do filter here, and also say that this is filter, just like that. So after all of those buttons, right, the reason I made the filter button separate here is because I can style them easily here. So here what I'm going to do is, after this card header, I'm going to make a table, right? Come down here, and this will be a table. So I'm just going to make a table with a class of transactions table, because we have to list everything in the table here, because it will be easier. I'm going to do t-head. Inside this, I'm going to use the table row tag, and first I'm going to need a table header. So I'm just going to do that and do date. I'm going to put icons because it will look good. It will make it look nice. I'm just going to do FAS, FA for short, just like that. You know, it will look pretty nice there. So here I need two of these here. So this will be category, just like that. And here I'll actually make it sort again because it will make sense right there. And next is amount. So I'm just going to do amount here. There we go. And next I need two more table headers. The first one is status. Another, I could have used copy paste, but oh well. Do status and action. So that is for the header, right? After this we need the table body. So I'm just going to do t body. Inside this I'm going to use again table row. Inside this, since we have already made table header, we'll use table data. So there will be td. Let's say I have actually I have some content, so I'm just going to copy paste. So this is dummy content. So the first thing is January 14, 2025. Next is probably subscription, just like that, and the amount, right? Now we'll style this in a bit. Right now everything looks kind of congested, but once we style it, it should look pretty nice, so don't worry. So here I'm also going to use a span tag with a class of status success, just like that. Just going to put success just like that. Okay. And the last thing that I need here is a button. So here I'm going to use td. Inside the td I'm going to make a button which will have a class of action button, and I'm just going to use the icon here. Using ellipse, just like that. There we go. A three menu dot icon. So we have I'm just gonna use the same content, but I'm gonna have the difference, right? I'm going to just copy this and paste it twice, just like that. I'm gonna change the date, but that's it, right? I'm just use January 10, change that to 8 again, and there we go, just like that. But everything will be the same because I don't want to type different contents for all of those, right? Having finished that, this for the main content. Give me a second, guys. So this is after the main content div, which is this right here. This is all for the main content, right? Let's first style this, and after that we'll move on to another stuff. So for this, what I'm going to do is I need to style the actual transaction section div first. I'm going to do transactions section. Hopefully I named that correctly, because I don't believe myself, as you might know. I'm just going to copy paste because I absolutely want to make sure that I'm right, because I've messed up a lot of times. Do grid, grid column, do 1 by -1, just like that. And here I can do section header, do display flex, justify content. I'm going to do between, just like that. And next what I can do is to align items set to center, and also do margin bottom 1, just like that. If I go here, And that's fine. So if I go back here and just continue, next is filters. I'm just gonna do display flex and do gap set to 1 rem, just like that. Now for the filter button, I'm just gonna do filter button here, and just do background set to white, just like that, and do border set to 1 pixel solid, D1, D5, and DB here, and do border radius set to 8 pixels. I need padding now, so I'm just gonna do 0.5 rem and 1 rem. That will make it look nice. Next thing I need is I can change the cursor to pointer, and also do display flex, align items center, and gap set to 0.5 rem, just like that. Now I will also style the filter button up here because it has the same class name. Next is the table, right? This is the most important part in this container here. So I'm just gonna do transaction table. I'm gonna do the width set to 100%, so that'll make it nice and wide, and also do border collapse set to collapse, just like that, and also do margin top 1 rem. By the way, if you're wondering what it does, it'll basically collapse the border of the default border of the table. Now after this, what I need to do is also have a transaction table th. So for the table header, I'm just going to do text align, I'm going to do left, just like that, and set the padding to 1 rem, and do font size set to 0.875 rem, and do font weight set to 600. Color, I'm going to set it to this gray color right here, and do border bottom set to 1 pixel solid, E5, E7, and EB, just like that. Now for data, right? What I'm going to do here is just select the data here, just like that. I'm just going to do padding 1 rem. That will make sure it is aligned perfectly, just like that, right? And next I can just do border bottom set to 1 pixel solid, F3, F4, and F6, just like that. This is like a small fade gray line there. And now next is status success, which is this right here. This is, I don't have to do anything unnecessary for this. I'm just gonna have a basic styling for this. So first thing is the background. So I'm gonna change the background to DC, FC, and E7, just like that. Green, light green color. Change the color to a dark green. So I'm just gonna do 1, 6, A3, and 4A, just like that. Set the padding to 0.25 rem and 0.75 rem, not too much, and do border radius set to 12 pixels, and set the font weight to 600 to make it darker, just like that. And next is action button, which is this right here. So for that, I'm just gonna set the background to none, and also have border set to none, and set the color to gray, and also have the cursor set to pointer, and do padding 0.25 rem, just like that. So that is the table. So for another thing I can do is for this, which is the main content, right? If I go here, do main content, I can give margin bottom about 2 rem. I think it's inside the thing, which is okay. So will now work then. So what I can do is I can go to the transaction section, which is right here, do margin top set to 2 rem. There we go. We'll separate the thing because right now it kind of looks congested. So with that said, we should be fine. Now let's go ahead and make the main thing, which is the models. So the first thing I need to do is make a add income and add expense button that you saw in the intro. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just make a small I can just do income and expense button, add a comment here, just like that, and do add buttons, just like that, and they'll make a button with a class of fab income, just like that, and give a on click of open income model. So this is a function that we'll be using from JavaScript. So there is that, and give a title of add income, just like that, and use the icon tag as a content saying a plus sign. So I'm just going to do FA plus. Okay, so this is what we are building here. So I can just copy paste this. I can change that to expense, change that to expense, and just copy paste that, change that to expense, change that to a minus, just like that. Now let's style these. So what I can do here is basically just use all of these buttons here. So the first thing I need to do is style the container, which is add buttons. So for add buttons, what I can do is basically make him position fixed, do bottom 2rem and right 2rem. That'll make it come right over there. Do display flex, and also do flex direction column, and do gap 1rem, just like that. So that is container styled, right? Next is actual buttons. So here I can just set them to, which is, this by the way is the container div, right? Not the actual, not actual icons. So for the container, what I can do is just do 56 pixels. Height also we want 56 pixels, just like that, and also do border radius 50%. There's a weird border there, I will change that. Cursor set to pointer, display set to flex, line item center, justify content center, making sure it's perfectly in the middle. Next I can just font size do 1.5 rem, also change the color to white. I'm also going to add a box shadow of 0, 4 pixels, 12 pixels, and RGBA set to this much right here. Now we need to style the thing because the color does not match. So for income, obviously we'll use a green color. So I'm also going to use this. There we go, just like that. Now for expense, I'll obviously use a red color. I'm gonna do that, change the background to a reddish color, just like this. So that will be our two buttons, right? So these are our buttons. So next, the last thing that we need to make is two models. So when you click on the thing, we need two forms to fill out, and we can append it to this transactions thing right here. So for that, we need two models. One is an income model, and next is expense model. So to do that, I need to make I'll make a comment saying income model here. Comment that out, and here I'm just going to do income model. I'll also give it class of model. Oops, I was not supposed to do that. That should have been an ID, but oh well. I'm going to do that. Here I'm just going to do model content. Inside this I need a model header, just like that. Inside this, I'm going to use an h2. We take class the model title, add income, button dot close button. Also have a on click of close model, income model, just like that, and basically just use the times icon. So this is a close model, so we need a cross icon obviously. To do that, what I can do, I just use HTML and just do times right like this. This will give me a cross icon, just like that. Now after this, what I can do is after header, we need the body. So I'm just gonna do model body. So here I need a form. Obviously, I'll give an ID to this form saying income form. I'll not have any actions. And here I'm just gonna do form group and do label. We don't have an ID, so I'll just use that. I'm just gonna do class form label. Change that to amount. I'm gonna use an input type number. Give a class of form input. Give an ID if income amount. Let's give a placeholder of enter amount and give required. I'm also gonna have autocomplete off, just like that. So next thing that I need to do is basically another form group. So this is one form group, so I need to make another. So this will be a drop down. So for that, I'll make form. We're gonna wrap this inside a form first. Make labels and have. For this, I'm just gonna copy paste because it's the same thing. Just a different content. I'm just gonna change it to category here. Use the select to make a form. Now for this, I don't need name, but I do need a class to style it. So I'm just gonna do form select and just do income category and set it to required. Now we need options here. So first option will be nothing. So I'm just gonna do select category because this is the label for that. So now I can just basically have options here and do just like that, have multiple values here. So the first one is, let's say, salary. So I'll put that there. I'm just gonna add here. I'm just gonna do next is freelance. Third one is business. Fourth one is investment, suppose. And the last one is other, just like that. And I can just copy, paste that there. Just like that. And now I just can make them capital just like that. And there we go. That is a drop down, right? So after this form group, what I can do is make another form group. Now this is similar, so I'm just gonna copy this. Copy this here. So this will be form label. This will be a description. I'm just gonna do, if I can spell it right, description. Change that to text. Form input and just do income description here, and placeholder. I can just probably copy this and paste that there, and there we go. And next is date, right? So here what I can do is, again, we need another form group anyways, so I'm just gonna copy paste that, change that to date, change that to a date. This is form input, and here change that to a date. Change that to date as well. I mean, we don't need placeholder. What am I doing? So yeah, that is pretty much it for the modal body. So after the modal body, which is right over here, we need a modal footer. So I'm just gonna do modal footer, making it semantic, and I mean technically we are not because we're using only div, but yeah. Do button secondary first, I guess. And here I can put a onClick function here. OnClick to close model, and just pass income model, just like that, and just it will have a cancel effect. Copy paste that. This will be primary, obviously. And here I can just have a add income and just give this that, and there we go. To add income, and that is the model, right? Now here, this is the whole income model. So what I can do here is just copy this whole and paste it again for the expense model. The reason I can do that is it basically is the same thing, but a different content. So I need to be very careful on what I do, because this will, this is not the same thing, but we still need to change a few steps. So the first thing we need to change is expense here. There will be model here, content, header, model, title, close button, all stay the same. However, this changes. This goes to expense model, and come down here, change that to expense. I can just actually copy this and just paste it like this. I'm gonna do form group, form label. I can change that to expense amount. I can do enter amount here. Now for this, the entire thing changes, because this is again for the expense category. So before I do that, I need to change a lot of these. So I'm just gonna change that. Select category remains the same. Just gonna do food here. Paste that there. Do entertainment. Paste that there. Change that to capital E. Change that to capital F. Next is, let's say, shopping. Paste that there. Next is, let's say, transport. Paste that there, just like that. Next thing is utilities. And last one is other. There we go. So that is our expense category. So now as for description. So here, as I said, this is for the expense, right? So this will be expense description. And input types will be text. I'll do expense date, and there will be date. And for model footer, this will be for expense model. And there we go. And that I'm going to change that to add expenses, and that will change to add expense, just like that. And that is pretty much it for our HTML. That is all we have to do. Now we need just to style this, and we are done, guys. So let's go ahead and style this, shall we? So here I need to do model, do display none first. Okay, this will basically make it disappear, I know, but we have to understand that this will be a thing. I'm not gonna do display none, obviously, for obvious reasons, but I'm gonna do it later. Okay, I'll do position, set that to fixed. I need it to be fixed, right? I need to give it a value here, so I'm just gonna do top 0, left 0, set the width to 100%, and height to 100%. Do background set to RGBA, set that to that. That'll give me a fade green effect just like that. And do Z index set to 1000, that will make sure it's up. And next is animations. I can just do fade in 0.3 seconds at ease. Now I'll make transaction line. I'll make keyframes for this. Okay, don't worry. Now next is model content. So I'm just gonna do model content. Do background white, just like that. Okay. Next is border radius. So I'm just gonna do border radius set to 12 pixels, width set to 500 pixels, and also do max width set to 90 view width, just like that. And do position it absolute, and do top 50%, and do left 50%. Now it's not exactly at the center. To fix that, I can do transform, translate, sorry, let's do negative 50% and negative 50% at y-axis too. So I'll make it come perfectly at the center, and do animation, do slide in 0.3 seconds at ease. We had to make keyframes later for this, for the animation, don't worry. Now what's happening here is we need to style all of the other stuff, right? Now to do that, what I need to do is first style the header. So I'm just going to do model header padding, set that to 1.5 rem, and do border bottom, do 1 pixel solid E5 E7 EB, do display flex, justify content space between, and do align items set to center, just like that. Now to the model title, you can do font size 1.25 rem and font weight 6 to 600, just like that. Now for the close button, I'll just have set the background set to none here, and do border set to none, font size 1.5 rem, color set to the gray color, and do cursor set to pointer. And next is the padding. I'm just going to set it to 0.5 rem, just like that. Now for the model body, I'm just going to do model body, do padding 1.5 rem, just like that. Now for the form group, for every single form group, I'm just going to do margin bottom 1 rem, just like that. Now for the form label, I'm just going to do display them a block, so it pushes everything at the next step, and do margin bottom set to 0.5 rem, and font weight set to 600 with a color of this gray color right here. Now next thing that I need to do is set the input. So I'm just going to do form input, set the width to 100%, padding set to 0.75 rem, and do border 1 pixel solid D1 D5. That'll make it look like that. Next is border radius, do 8 pixels, and do font size set to 1 rem, just like that. Now for the drop down, so I'm just going to do form select, do width set to 100% as well, set the padding to same 0.75 rem, just like that, and do border 1 pixel solid, the same thing here, which is this right here. Border radius set to 8 pixels, and do font size set 1 rem. I meant border radius there. There we go. And do background background set to white, just like that. Now for the footer, undo model footer. This will be pretty interesting. So I'm gonna do padding 1 set to 1.5 rem to increase the thing. Do border top set to 1 pixel solid. E5 you send in EB again, and do display flex. And since I want it to be right over here, I can display content set to end, just like that, and set a gap to 1 rem. Now to actual button, right? And then I'll style the primary and secondary button. So for that, I need to do padding set to 0.5 and 1 rem. Set the border radius to 8 pixels. Also do font size 0.75 rem. Do font weight set to 600. Border set to none. And cursor set to pointer. Now for the button primary, right? What I'm going to do is do button primary. Set the background to blue. So I'm just going to do 3B82 and F6. Set the color to white, just like this. And for the cancel button, what I'm going to do is this is secondary, so I'm just going to do secondary. Change that to a different grayish colors. So I'm just going to do 37415. There we go. That should be fine. And with that said, we should be fine. So next thing I need to do is make keyframes. So do keyframes. Identifier, the first thing we'll make is fade in. This is pretty simple. Do from opacity 0. And one thing I forgot to do is set the opacity to 0 here. I'm gonna uncomment display none, just like that. So here I'm just gonna do 2. Do opacity to 1. There we go. That is our fade in. Pretty much very simple right here. Next thing is the slide in. Do slide in, just like that. Do from transform translate to negative 50% to negative 60%, just like that. This will basically be from here. It will go from this position to a perfect middle. So it will kind of have a slide in effect from negative 60% on the y-axis to 50%. 50% being exactly at the middle. Another thing I need to do is we have set the opacity to 0. So set the opacity which is from 0, set that to 1. So that is our animation for slide in. Now for us to make it responsive, I'm just going to use media queries, check the screen size to max width. So first one, let's say that's 1200 pixels. I'm just going to do a dashboard grid, set that to grid template columns 1 fraction and 1 fraction, just like this, right? Next is chart section. Do chart section, which is down right here. I'm going to set that to 1 fraction as well. So do 1 fraction, so it'll go down. It will make it look more organized, like this. Now it is responsive for 1200 pixels, right? We don't have to do anything else. Now next for the 768, so I'm just going to do 768 here. Make it a little bit smaller, making sure it's 768. And now what I can do is for this, I will change that to 1 fraction. It's still not 1, just like that. Dashboard grid set to 1 fraction. Next, what I can do is, I don't need to do anything else, and do main content. Set that to padding 100. And yeah, it's responsive. It might not be responsive for bigger screens, if like smaller screens like this, right? but it is responsive for majority of the screen. If I go to responsive here, and responsive for almost 500 pixels. The reason it's not responsive for all of these is because of the navbar. These right here are responsive for smaller screens, but navbar isn't. Now this will fix it by just making a hamburger menu. Super simple. And yeah, that's pretty much it for your responsive. Now only thing we have left is to add a little bit of JavaScript, and this project should be done. So let's go back to the code. I'm just gonna do this really quick, just like this. Now let's go ahead and start writing our JavaScript. The first thing I need to do, the first thing I need to go is, let me check if I'm connected. Yes, I am. I have linked my JavaScript file. Initially, what I'm going to do is make array of objects, right? So this will be the array of all of these. So we can just, put the transaction right here from here. So what I'm going to do here is just do let transaction equals, I'm going to make array of objects. So here, initially what I'm going to do is give every single one of these objects an ID of like 1, 2, 3, and just do date. Let's say the date is 2025 01 and 14, just like this. And next data is the amount. So if it's a deductible amount, I'm just going to do minus 4040, just like this, and do status. Let's say status is success, just like this. And next is type. I'm just going to do expense. Format the document, just like this. So this is one. This will be one, right? What I'm going to do here is just copy these, right? I'm just going to copy these and just paste it 3 times. I'm just going to change the ID here and there, just like this, matching the IDs of these, like the date of that, right? And with that said, we should be fine. So after this, so we can dynamically change according to the values of here, because these are dummy datas, right? So next, I need to initialize the monthly income and expenses. So right now we have this. So I'm just going to put the initial value as that. So do monthly income equals to 2645. So that is the amount that I made here, right? And do let monthly. The reason we are doing this, and reason we are matching all of the values from here, is because we need to deduct and add to these amounts, right? Do monthly expenses equals to what is our monthly expenses? That's 81895, just like this. So now we need to get the date. So that will be today's date. To get that, we can use the date function. I'm just going to make a variable that will store the date. So do new date. That'll give me the date. I'm just going to convert that to ISO string and split that using the split function by t, right? And just get the first item in the array, just like that. If you are wondering what is this, if I can just do toString, right? Oops, I forgot to make the function. Now if I just console.log this, just like this, and do today, and go to our console here, you'll see the thing say T, just like that. And if I zoom in, you'll see that there is a T that separates the time and the date. So we only need the date. So to get only the date, what we can do is basically separate by T. So we'll just split it from T, and we need the date, which is, after splitting it, it will be the first item in the array. So I'm just going to do just like that. The next is document dot get element by ID. We need the time or income date, right? I'm just going to do income date and just set the value to today, just like that. So if we go here now, if we go here, search income date, which is the input, right? So what we'll do is basically when the date, the label of date, it will just set the automatically to today's date. So that's what we'll do. So we'll just set that to that, and now what we can do is basically get the expense date as well. So I'm just going to do that and do expense date, set that to today's date as well. Now we can start making our function. So I'm just going to do function open income model. So this was the first function that we needed to make because we have already, where is it? We have already made the function. So if I go here, there we go. So we have two buttons right here, right? Which is the expense, income and expense button. Now we have these functions, so we have to define these functions, right? So the first one is open income model. So right here, that's the same one right here, right? So to make this is very simple. I'm just going to do document.getElementById. I'm just going to do income model.style and set that the display property to block, right? And do document.body.style.overflow. I'm just going to set that to hidden. So that will be the thing. So if I now click it, it will open the income pop-up, right? Now we also have to close it. We have to make the close model function. But before that, I'm going to make the expense model. I'm just going to do expense here. And also write expense model here. Set that to the same property. And now if we click the expense model, it will change that to the thing. There we go. And I think I forgot to change the title of this, right? So if I go here, and I do our expense model, I can do add expense here instead of income. And if I click it, that will be add expense, just like that. Now you have to make sure that when you click on these close button, it closes the pop-up. Now to do this, what I'm gonna do is make another function. So I'm just gonna make a function called function close model, which is the name of our function here. There we go, close model. Now we have to make sure that it takes a ID. Right, so what I'm going to do here is just do close model, get the model ID as the parameter, and just get that DOM. So I'm just going to do document.getElementById. So ID is passed from the parameters as an argument from when calling a function. So I'm just going to get that here, and just set that display. Since it's a closed model, we have to set, which was initially blocked, we have to set that to none, right? Just like this. And also set the document dot, we have set the overflow to hidden, so we also have to set document.style.body overflow to set that to auto, which was the default. And we have to reset the forms too, because if we click on the, like we have when you type the value on the forms, we also have to reset the value. So I'm just going to check first if model ID equals to income model. If it is, then just set the thing to default. So to do that, I can do document.getElementById and do income form, which is the form. I'll just reset that from the reset function and do the same. I'm just gonna copy paste because I need this DOM. Change that to date and set the value to today, just like this, and do else here. Now what we can do is basically do the same thing but with expense form. So I'm just gonna do change that to expense, and also change that. I'm just going to copy this and paste that there. So expense state, and that is it for the close model function. So now if we open this, this should open just like this. When you close it, it should close like this. Pretty cool. Now next thing what we can do is also close when clicking on the outside, right? Now to do this, we can basically check if the target event or clicking event is being clicked on the background. So here, this right here is a container, right? That's why it's color, you know, the alpha value of this is really low, so that's why it has a fade black pop-up effect. Now we'll just check if the user is clicking this container, the outside container of the main form container, right? Now to do that, I can just do after this. Now here I can just do window dot on click. We'll check if the event, we'll check if there's a clicking event on the website, right? Now we'll check, first we'll get the DOM, right? I need the DOM, so I'm just gonna do income model, get the income model. I can just probably just copy paste this from here, get the income model, and next is expense model. I'm just gonna copy that, paste that there, paste that there as well. Oops, I accidentally copied that. There we go. That is all of the DOMs we need. Next we will check if event.target is equal to income model. If it is, then we'll just do close model, and we'll basically send the income model as the parameter. Same goes for the else block. What we can do here, actually, instead of using else block, which will basically break the code because it will basically close the thing when clicking on everything else, we'll just do that event.target if it's equal to expense model. So here we can just do probably that, just like this, and just do close model. I can probably just copy paste that and change that to expense model, just like this. Now if we click here, it should close just like this, right? Now it will not close when clicking on this, right? But it will close when clicking on the background, just like this. So it's more user-friendly experience. So next thing that we need to make is the add income. So we have to make sure that it is working, right? Now to do that, we'll make a function again that will basically say add income and do const amount equals to. We'll basically get the amount from the value. So we need the value from this amount input field right here. To get that, what you can do is do document.get element by ID, get the income amount, which is the ID name that we gave. If we go here, copy that and just find that there. As you can see, the input number, we gave it an ID called input amount. Now to get the value, which is whatever value you type, let's say I type this, right? I need that value. Now to get that value, we can basically use a property called value. So that will get me the value. However, this value right here, the value that will be returned, right, will be a string. So we need to do calculations, right? Now to do that, we need to convert this into an integer or, float. To do that, I can basically do parse float, and that will convert the string to a floating data type. Now after this, what we can do is do the same for other. Let's say category, we need this, right? But since this, we don't need it to be any other data type, which literally cannot be any other data type, so we can just directly get it. So we can just do const category equals to document.get element by ID. Get element by ID, you can just get income category just like this, and get the value of that. That'll give me the value of whatever user chooses. And here I'm just gonna, you also need the description here, so I'm just gonna change that to description and just do income description. That'll give me the value of that. Next is const date. I'm just gonna get the value of date too. I can just probably copy paste that. Cut that actually, and get the date. There we go. Just like this. So that will give me all of the DOMs, right? Now we have to check if all of these amounts are available. Now what if user just user just enters empty? Technically it will not let it do that because we have set the thing to required here, right? So user has to fill out all of the forms in order for it to give a submit event. However, if the user does, I'm also gonna give a alert message. So I'm just gonna do, if any of these inputs are not filled yet, I'm just gonna give a message to the user saying, alert, please fill in all required fields. Okay, just like this, and we'll just return from the function, just like this. Now we already have defined here, so now what we can do is, if we just do this with that event, right? Give me a second. Cannot read null properties in income description. Okay, there we go. This needs to be capital, so that's why it was not working. If you do this, it will basically give you an alert message, right? So after this, what I'm gonna do is, next thing that you can do is basically make an object for all of the transactions, right? Now we can basically make an object for all of these values right here. Now to do that, what I can do is basically make a new, says a new transaction equals to. Now what we can do is give an ID to the transactions, saying transactions dot length. If I just do that, we'll do transactions dot length, do +1, just like that. We'll basically get the ID from here, right? We'll basically append the new transaction here. So that's what we're gonna do. So we do length +1 and do date, set that to, date. Okay, one mistake I made is this variable is not defined. The reason behind is I'm trying to select this variable, but that is the problem because I said the here to plural, right? And we have to set comma instead of semicolon, my bad. Next is category. I'm just gonna set the category and we'll do char at 0 and change that to uppercase. We'll do that. That will change that to uppercase and do category dot slice. I'll just do 1, just like that. So what we did here is basically make the first letter capital and basically joined the rest of the thing, right? So let's say if it is that, then in case if it's not capital, it will just set it to capital and set the category to that value. So next thing what I need to do is basically, since it's a income, right? So what we need to do is basically also add the amount. Now amount will be really different, not different, but the thing is in expense we'll basically give the amount negative, so we can just subtract it. In when actually adding the amount, I'm just gonna set the amount to default, just like this. I have a habit of writing semicolon here. Oops. Do status and set that to a success. I also give type a income, right? and do description, set that to the whatever description the user said, like the user has written. So that will be all for this. So next thing what I need to do is set the transaction. Now to append it here, right? So for that, what I can do is use a function called unshift, do transactions dot unshift, and do new transaction. That will basically append it to the I'm outside the function. Oops, okay, I was not supposed to do that. There we go, just like that. Now you have to update all of these here. Now to do that, we'll make a function in a bit. That function will be update dashboard. So this will be the function that we'll be making later. So right now we haven't made it, but we will. And also update the transaction. So this will basically update the dashboard, which is these amounts right here. And we'll make another function called update transaction table, I guess. We'll basically update the table right here. Now I'm just gonna do that and change that to transaction table. Transactions table. Right? So this is a function that we haven't made. We'll make it in a bit. So after doing all of that, we should be almost there. So next thing I need to do is when hitting a submit button, we also need to close the model. So I'm just going to do income model, right? And next I'm just going to show a notification. So this is again another function that we'll be making. It'll basically get two arguments here. That is, one is message, and next is if either is success or fail or whatever. I'm just gonna do income added successfully, and next is success, and format the document, and there we go. That is the function for add income. Now we can do here is basically copy and paste the same for expense, because again those are the same thing with only minor changes. So one change is that it is expense amount instead of income amount, and category is the same, this being expense category, that is expense description, that is expense date. Every other thing is the same. This stays the same because it's the same error message. Next is, as I said, these all will be the same, only the type will be expense and the amount will be negative to make sure it subtracts from the original amount, right? So next is we also have to unshift it to the transaction object, which is array of objects, with the array of objects right here. Now next thing we can do is update the transaction table, and also I think I forgot to do something, that was to update the value from here. So what I can do is basically do monthly, which is this expense, right? So what we can do is to here I can just say monthly income, will basically change that to that, right? So we'll get the monthly income and add amount to it and make that the current income. The next is monthly expense here, so I can just do so I can just do monthly expenses and just use the amount, just like that. There we go. Every other thing should be fine. Change that to expense. Actually make the first letter capital. Also close the expense model, and there we go. That should be it. So that is our add expense function. So next is update dashboard, which basically updates this, right? Now to do that, what I can do is first make the function. So do function update dashboard, and basically set. First, we need to get the DOM, so I'm just going to do document.querySelector and just do income amount, get the income amount, and here get the text content, and update the text content to here. So what I need to do is get the thing to a string here. So I'm just gonna do that. So if I do text content here, right, I'm just gonna do monthly income dot to local string and just do dot 00. So that will basically change the thing to here. And next is the expense content. So I'm just gonna get I'm just gonna do the same thing, change that to expense and make the monthly expenses so here, and also do to local string. So here it will basically change that to a local string. So what it will do, so if I had to, let's say if I just get that here, right, and console.log here, if I just console.log and show it to you, give me a second, do this, it'll basically get the thing here. So it will take the string and the local string will add comma, just like how the thing, how we have made right here. It will basically add comma after 3 digits. So that is what local string does. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's why we use local string instead of toString. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we have to make the other things. That is, we have to change the spending limit. We have to add here, we have to change all of that in the My Car dashboard. We have only changed in here at the moment. So here I can need to get the DOM for this. So I'm just gonna get the DOM. I'm also gonna add a space right here. I'm gonna do right. That sense is responsive, so it doesn't really matter after that. So here what I'm gonna do is get the thing. So I'm just gonna do spending, change that to limit. That will get me the DOM. Get the text content of that DOM, and change this, right? So here what I need to do is here I have to change it to local string, obviously, but I basically need to do spending limit, to get the spending limit. What we have to define here first. So I need to get let's define the spending limit. So initially the spending limit here is 12,645. So let's declare the variable to that. So do let spending limit be 12,645, and also need to get the used amount, which is the monthly expenses, right? So I'm just going to do used amount equals to monthly expenses, which is the monthly expenses is the used amount. And now we have to get the percentage for this to fill up this bar, right? So right now we have to get that. To use the formula is percentage. I'm just going to declare the variable first. So percentage, so we'll use the used amount divided by the spending limit, and we'll multiply the whole thing by 100. So that will basically change that to a percentage that we can use to fill up this progress bar. Now here that we have that, so we can do spending limit, which is that, and the used amount. That will be the remaining spending limit. After that, that will be the new spending limit, right? And we'll change that to local string, and we'll add that. There we go. So after that, what I can do is now to do this, I'm just gonna first get the DOM, so get the progress fill, and now I don't need the text content because it's not an input field or a content, right? I can get the style.width. Now progress bar, as I said, is the width, right? Now we have to set the fill of this width to the amount here, which is the percentage. Now to do that, what I can do is first you can, I don't need any of these. What I do need is a thing. So here what I can do is just set math dot min and get percentage and 100. We'll go to 100 and set the percentage. Now that will basically set the width property to whatever property that we calculated here. And dynamically changing the progress bar of the fill, right? Of this progress bar. So after that, what I can do is that is it for the dashboard, like the update dashboard. Next function that we need to make is, what was it? Update transaction table. So I'm just gonna make that, do const update transaction table. Now to do this, we first need the table, right? To get the DOM, I can do const tbody equals to document dot get element. Actually, I didn't set a ID, so I need to use the query selector. I'll just get the transactions table and get the tbody, just like that. Oh, I made, oops, okay, that was not supposed to be. Messed up the syntax there. Now we'll set the tbody to, initially we'll set it to inner HTML, we'll set it to empty string. So here it will not be anything else, but you have to make, the reason we do that, it will loop all of those and we'll basically give out new values right here. So here I'm just going to do const recent transactions equals to, so here we have already have all of the transactions here. So we have, if we add a transaction or add an expense, it will basically add it to this, right? So to update this, first we have to make sure that it is empty, and we'll get the existing, all of the existing transactions, and we'll loop them and fill them here. So that is what we are trying to do. So we need the recent transactions here, so I'm just going to do transactions dot slice. So we'll get up to 10 here. So 0 to 10, again 10 being the exclusive, right? And after this, what we can do is do recent transactions dot for each. We'll basically get all of the transaction. Oops. We'll loop this. Do const row. We'll create a row here. Do document dot create element. We'll create a table row and do formatted. We'll make a variable called formatted date and get the date. So I'm just going to do new date transaction dot date and change that to local date string. And let's say we'll give it the value. So that's English and US. And here I can just do month. We'll do, let's say, short. We'll give it a short month. And day, we can give it a numeric, just like this. And year, also numeric, just like that. Now here, we basically need the amount. So we need to fill out the amount, right? To do that, I can basically get the amount here and just do const amount display. So we need to check first that the amount is actually greater than 0 and not negative amount, right? Now to do that, I can just do transaction is greater than 0. If it is, then basically set the amount to that. So I'm just going to do that and do plus and just basically set the transaction dot amount dot to local string and just do that 0 0. So that will basically give me the thing. Else, because it's a ternary operator, so to else I'll just get the negative, so that is expense, right? So I'm just going to do math.abs I forgot to put it a string. So do that. And negative, I can do that. Do math.abs. Do transaction amount to local string, and that will be add 00 behind that. So after that will be this will be the amount that we need, right? Now we need to display it. So to do that, what I can do, and do row.innerHTML, and we'll get that. So here, to do this, I can just basically get the DOM from here. So if I just do tr, there we go. So that will be the date. Now I can just basically get the thing from here. So I'm just gonna get it. Get the DOM here, paste it here, and there we go. So I'm just gonna push it right here. So instead of this, all of the content will make them variable. So I can we have set the formatted date. I'm just gonna paste that there. And subscription, I can just probably paste it to transaction.category. Just like that, and that is our amount. So here there is a problem. So we have two different amounts that we have to display. One it being success, another one being the actual status, if it's a success or not, right? Now to do that, what I can do is basically make two different table data styles. Now the one is this, where the style color is, I'm just gonna do style color, we'll change it to two different colors. So transaction amount, that amount is greater than or 0. If it is, then it will be a yellow green color. So if I just do 10, I need the green color here, so I'm just going to copy that, paste that there. And else we need the red color, so I'm just going to do EF quadruple 4, that will be the red color that we need, just like that. And there we go. So here we need to put a bracket, and yeah, so I think messed up the syntax here. So if I just do that, so if I just do inside here, that will basically fix it right there. So that will be the thing. That'll be one thing. If I just like format the document, where's the thing? So if I just format the document, there we go, right? That is the thing. Now I just need to do amount.display, make the amount of display here as the content, and that is pretty much it. So next is for the transaction status. So for that, I can just make that really simple by just doing the transaction.status. There we go. And for the action button, that stays the same. Now we just need to append this with tbody.appendChild, and just append the row that is the table row that we created right here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this function. So next function that we need to make is the show notification function. So I'm just going to do show notification function. As I said, the first thing that will take is a message, and next second time it will be a type. So if it's success, I'm just going to do default argument. I'm just going to pass it. It's also called default parameter. It will basically be success if the type is not defined. To do that, we need to make a div. So I'm just going to do const notification. So it'll basically be a pop-up that'll basically pop up into top right corner about right here, right? So for that, I need to make a notification by just creating an element, document dot, I just do create element, and we'll create a div, right? Now we need to give this div a property. So here I can just basically put the CSS here. So I'm just going to do that. Well, let's say I'm just going to define that to notification container, just like this. And now what I can do is basically write the CSS here. So I'm just going to do position set to fixed, also do top to rem, also do right to rem, also do background set to success, or the failed. Now to do that, what I can do is we'll basically copy this into here, right? So to make it easier for me, I'm basically just trying to take the advantage of snippets, right? Now here, if I had to type like this, I had to do notification dot style dot CSS text. That's how you write CSS in JavaScript, by the way. And if I had to write like this, I have to type every single thing by myself, which is kind of not fast. So I'm just going to do it right here, and I'm basically just going to copy paste it here. Okay, and another thing I can do is just set the color to white, set the padding to 1 rem and 1.5 rem, and also do border radius set to 8 pixels, also do box shadow set to 0, 4 pixels, 12 pixels, and RGBA set to 1.5. Right? Next is the index. I want it to be always at the top, so I'm just going to give it the index of 1001. An animation, I'm just going to do slide in. So I'm just going to give slide in right and just do 0.3 seconds at ease. So that will be the animation right here. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm also going to give a background element. So I have to change the background depending on if it's a success message or not. So success message will be green, otherwise it will be red. So I'm just going to leave it blank because we have to write an if-else statement here. So for background, I'm just going to do type. We'll check the type here, right? The parameter that is being sent. I'm just going to do success. If it's success, then the color will be green. So I'm just going to do 10, P9, and 81. So that is green. Else it will be red. So I'm just going to do EF quadruple 4. That'll basically make it red. I forgot the hashtag here. There we go. And now I can just basically cut this because we don't need it. And after this, I can just do notification dot text content. I'll just set the message to whatever message we have, and just do document dot body dot append child, and just append it to notification. Right, there we go. Now we have to make sure that this notification appears, right? Now we can do set timeout. I can give a timeout of 3 seconds, so they will be there for 3 seconds. Now I can do notification animation. In the notification dot style dot animation, we need a slide in right animation. Now we have to make the animation in a bit, but for now, let's say the animation stays there for, or appears in around 300 milliseconds. So we can just do animation, set the animation to slide out, right? Now, if there is slide in, we also need a slide out. So that is that. And set it to 0.3 seconds at ease. Another thing we can do is basically set the set timeout. Let's say the thing stays there for 300 milliseconds there, and after that I can just say document dot body the remove child, and we'll remove notification just like this. And after all that, what we can do is basically get the thing. Now we have to make animation for slide out, so I'm just gonna go out of this function, which is right here, and make the animation. I can just do const style equals to document dot create create element. I'm just gonna create the style, right? And now I can just do style dot text content, set that to there. I'm just gonna just do keyframes. I can actually make keyframes here and just, so that will basically put this CSS in there, right? Now to do that, I can just do keyframes, and make that, let's say, slide in right. That is the first animation that we need to make. Now here I'm just gonna do simple CSS. I'm just gonna do from transform. I'm just gonna do translate to X. Let's say it is 100%, and set the opacity to 0 initially. And now set that to 2 value. And it will come to 0, which is the original position. Set the opacity to 1. So that is for the slide in effect, right? Now next we have to make it for slide out, just like that. Now here it will just basically be initially it will be at 0, right, and opacity will be 1, and it will move to 100%, and opacity will be 0. So that will be the thing. That is it for animation. I can just cut that, save the CSS, and paste this text content here just like this. Also have let's fix the spacing also just like this, and there we go. Now to append it, so I'm just gonna do document dot head dot append child, and I'm just gonna append style. There we go. And that is pretty much it for this, right? So next thing that we need to do is make hover effects for the cards. There are a lot of cards, right? Now I also want to make a hover effect for all of these. So if I just go here and get all of the card, right? I can just do card. I can just do card here. Now to make hover effect for these cards, I can just do card and make a hover here. We'll basically translate to translate to -2 pixels, and also do box shadow set to 0, 4 pixels, 12 pixels, and RGBA set to 0, 0, 0, and 0.15. Oops. And next is transition. So I'm just gonna do I can just basically make a transition effect here saying transition all 0.3 seconds at ease. There we go. So yeah, make a hover effect right here. Also put cursor to pointer, I think. I think that doesn't look right. That's fine. So I'm just gonna do that. Make hover effect all of these cards. And there we go. That is all we have to do here. Now I'm gonna come back here. Now we can just do document.addEventListener, listen to DOM loaded, and make a function here. And we'll do update transaction table, just like this. Now check if we have any errors. We do. So what is the error? Do T body. So it basically says the thing cannot. So we cannot get the DOM. That's a common issue. So here at 154, right? Here it says it cannot get the DOM. That means this T body is null. So if I go here, I'm just gonna get that, find that there. As you can see, there is no transaction table. How about this? I'll get the T body then. Transaction table, so you'll basically get that there. Copy that, paste it right here. Now to do that, I think the problem should be solved. There is no any error. Now if you click here, let's say let me put the amount of 100, select category like this. Let's say I'm just gonna give whatever description right here. Today, do add income. So what is the problem? We cannot get the text content from two local strings. So what is empty? Give me a second, guys. So do that. It's null properties. I'm just gonna do. So add 138. So I can just do that. Get that here, just like this. Go to 138, and this right here is saying that this expense amount is null. Or we can type cannot set the properties in null text. So here I can just get such expense amount. So again, these values are null. So to get the values, I can just get these values. So we need those values, right? So to get, I'll just do amount here, income amount, and what is other? So I set both of these to income amount. Oops. So there we go. That is my bad. Now if I just do that, and now if I just put this here, put something like amount, let's say this much, and just put that there, add income added successfully. There we go. This basically added all of that. Also defined here, as you can see. So we basically deducted all of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this thing. So we can also check the expense if it's working. So I can just do, I can just do 50,000 here. Put to food. I'm just doing random things. As you can see, it deducts from the thing, and there we go. Monthly expenses, it added that to there. And also do spending limit, also increased all of that. So yeah, it's working, guys. It's working, and yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. Or not video, stream. And yeah, if you enjoyed the stream and me building it, the source code will be linked down in the description box below if you want to check that out. And with that said, I'll see you guys in another stream. Bye bye.